Okay, welcome everybody to Wall Street Reporter's next Super Stock live stream, April 20th. We are back with Nova Mentis Life Sciences. Actually, I think this is the first time we have Will on the show.
Yes,
we've had Marv, so Will Raskin, the CEO. Will, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate you having me on. I know, Marv's been on there numerous times, so nice to be on and maybe give a little different perspective on things here.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're going to talk about sort of the corporate perspective. Now, again, for anybody that's new to the program, our goal is to bring you those stocks which, we believe have that 10x to 100x upside potential. So companies going after massive market opportunities that are at a key inflection point. And there are multiple catalysts in place to ignite that growth. And one other thing is we like stocks which are ground floor opportunities that have really compelling valuations, especially to the peer group. And that, Nova really meets all those criteria. Will, so again, it's your first time on the program. Now, first of all, I want to congratulate you on all the milestones. You've done an amazing job with getting the company to the clinical trial on very limited resources over the last year. In the middle of a bear market. So it's incredible.
Yeah, no, thank you. And, it just comes down to the team. I think, we've got a lean team, an experienced team, and we've had a plan since the get-go to stay laser focused on Fragile X and autism, and it's worked out. So so far so good.
So for anybody that's new to the program, right? Anybody that hasn't come across Nova before, what exactly what's the market that you're addressing? Like what does Nova do exactly? Just like a quick 20-second snapshot.
Well, our drug focus is psilocybin, and so we've got a sort of proprietary manufacturing process for synthetic psilocybin, CGMP quality. But the market per se is to get the autism spectrum disorder, we're using Fragile X as sort of the orphan drug path, and we can kind of expand on that later. But
well, that's like I think, and when we had Marv, your chief science officer, on before, he sort of explained that Fragile X is it's kind of like the beachhead strategy. Again, he's had tremendous experience in the pharma world, biotech world, getting many drugs through the FDA process and approved. And I guess the idea is you go after a very narrow focus, you get an approval, and then from there you have the opportunities for off-label use, label expansion. That's what pharma is all about. It's going once you get in, then you can sort of, once you have your foot in the door, so to speak, you can go after other markets, which and the neurological disorders, neurological disease. It's like from research I've done, it's like an $80 billion market that encompasses, memory, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all the different neurological stuff.
Yeah, we like to use the word neuroinflammatory is a word that Marv likes to use. So, and that sort of casts a pretty wide net. As you mentioned, Alzheimer's sort of falls into that category, Parkinson's, ADHD, autism, so on and so forth. So, but with limited resources and just limited team, we have to stay in our lane, and so Fragile X autism is sort of our path to hopeful success here.
And so the idea is right now you have, and again, there's been the preclinical research that's been done, the trial, all the data that's been published in the peer-reviewed medical journals. It's very promising, right? But now, we don't know until the rubber hits the road, and that's when we actually have human clinical trials.
Right.
So you got finally the approval from Health Canada to start the phase 2A trial, and the patient you just announced this week that patient recruiting is starting. It's on.
Correct. Yeah, patient recruitment has started. So alongside our great partners here, PKK Science, who's basically shepherding the process for us as our CRO or clinical research organization here. The next we've there's a process here that as cumbersome and as lengthy it can be, there's certain, steps you have to go through. This isn't, you just can't throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. As a process. So, we got the approval in December, had to get then the IRB approval, which we got recently. And with that, now we can kickstart the recruitment phase.
Yeah, and yeah, so it's been again a lengthy process. I think there's like 3 or 4 approvals you have to get. You have to get the Health Canada, then the import, the drug import.
Yeah, the drug itself, certainly, through our manufacturing partners in North Carolina, and we've done this before in that we've sent our API material to our partner in Rome University, Trey Rome University, for our preclinical work. So, and then we've recently had to move some product to TIPT, Toronto Institute of Pharmaceutical. I forget the last word, but yeah, our partners in Toronto, and they've been instrumental in helping us through the whole encapsulation process. So and currently doing stability work on the product. So basically testing the shelf life of the product. So what you get today is going to be the same in 6 months and 12 months. So they're currently going through that process. So it's a process.
Yeah, so it's a pharmaceutical essentially.
Yeah,
that's the whole idea. So okay, now this is so it's great stuff. Okay, so from what we know, the clinical trial, and again from conversations with Marvin, again, just my understanding of the process is, Marvin told me that part of the reason for his successful track record in getting so many drugs through the FDA process, getting them approved, is you really have to design these clinical studies in a very, very careful manner. So you actually you got the right patients, you have kind of the right endpoints involved and everything else, and that way you have it set up for success, right? And again, he explained that it's sort of you're going after a real very narrow bullseye to get that successful result. So so this trial, from one, you're gonna have 10 patients, right? It's a 28.
Yeah, it's a small phase 2A trial, and 10 patients. Again, it's unlike autism. The Fragile X community is it's a small community. That's why it's designated as a rare disease. So and so the recruitment phase may prove to be a little longer than anticipated, but it doesn't mean that we need to have all 10 patients recruited before we can proceed. So as we recruit, as patients go through the screening process, and if they tick off all the boxes, then we can start treating them on the 28-day every second day trial here, microdose trial.
Okay, so in other words, you can start as soon as you get the first patient.
Correct.
You can start with, and it's like what do they call it, a rolling trial? But as you go in,
as is, basically as is. So we'll have a pretty good idea from the first several patients, sort of how things are looking.
Okay, no, this is great, and I think and what's interesting is that the company, I mean, the groundwork has kind of been laid. Again, so it's a you have orphan drug designation from the FDA, which I think is a first for a psychedelic drug, right?
It's a first. I don't know of anyone else. So, and I don't go on the orphan drug website every day to check and see who got what approvals, but one can Google pretty quick and see. I think this goes back to Dr. Hausman's strategy of keeping things focused on a rare disease. So Fragile X is a genetic subset of autism, and so if you have it, you have it. It's not you're not on the spectrum. You got the genetic traits.
He explained to me there are biomarkers. So it's like it's a absolute. It's not a when objective things may be whatever. No,
so you have it, and so there's no sort of gray area. You either have it or you don't. So So Fragile X qualifies as a rare disease, and so in the world of pharma, the big guys are shooting for the big bullseye, where, the opportunity really is in the sort of rare disease orphan drug scenario, where for a small cap company like ourselves, we can stay, very focused on the task at hand, with the opportunity, as you mentioned earlier, this off-label use, which we don't talk about all that much, because it's not something that people sort of promote, but it's
Right.
it's something that is done, every day.
We've used examples of, I think, was it Viagra, right? Or, a
Right.
Rogaine. I mean, all these drugs, right? Which really they were developed, I think, for heart, whatever. I think it was
Yeah.
one or the other, right? And all of a sudden we find that it's got something else. It's,
Yeah. So once a doctor, once a drug has been approved, whether it's in EU, and so, just quickly on the orphan drug side, what the benefit of that, which is maybe lost.
Ozempic now. We use the example of Ozempic. That's the diabetes thing. That's all of a sudden now it's a
Yeah.
blockbuster drug for weight loss. This is like the huge.
Yeah.
This is going to be
Well,
bigger than I don't know. This could be a huge new thing.
it's funny that you mentioned that. I think where I live in British Columbia, they're bringing in some legislation so that people can't just buy it for weight loss. It has to be for an underlying.
They can't manufacture it because they're taking up. There's so much demand that the people who actually need it can't get it now.
Yeah. So, just quickly, the value proposition on the orphan drug scenario is that it basically gives you access to a market that no one else has, right? So if we have the Fragile X designation for the using psilocybin as a treatment, and so that basically creates a moat around us, and that no one else can come into that space for I believe it's 7 years in the FDA, and then 10 years in the EU, vice versa, one of the two there. But so that whereas in the marketplace, people are talking about how psilocybin isn't a patentable drug, fine, but we have this sort of secondary opportunity that's really limited to ourselves at this point because of our designation. And so that's where if the data proves to be as robust as we feel it will be, a doctor could then say, hey, you know what, it's working on my Fragile X patient, maybe I'll try it on my autistic patient, or on my Alzheimer patient, or what have you, right? So that's where that sort of opportunity opens up. So we don't talk about it too much, but it's sort of a given that that's the marketplace opportunity for sure.
Okay, and what's amazing is right now the company has the valuation it's under 10 million. The companies, your peer group companies in the psychedelic space, biotech companies in the psychedelic space that are
right
in the same kind of position, early stage, phase 2, phase 2A. I think one of them is in a phase 3. They're trading at valuations of 400 million, 300 million, 200 million. I think the cheapest one is like 100 million. I have
and these companies have massive burn rates, insatiable appetite for cash, and the biotech industry is a sort of capital intensive sector for sure, but we've been able to really leverage the experience of Dr. Hausman, what he's done in the past, and bring that to our current success here with the preclinical work we've done anyways. And with the orphan drug designation, that's a wonderful feather in our cap and a great milestone for the company. And the obvious next step is the phase 2A trial, so it's going to be exciting.
Okay. And okay, so the idea is, again, I think with Marvin's background in getting the drugs approved, you start with this very narrow focus.
Right.
You get the approval, then you expand into other areas. That's kind of the big opportunity, and also it's kind of the easiest, quickest path. And then you have the potential, blue sky potential with the other stuff. Okay, Will. Tell us a little about kind of like your background. How did you get involved with the company? Like what's you got the guitars there, or you're like you're a rock star or something, or what?
Yeah, I want to be a rock star. So I just got a few guitars. I used to play guitar, and all that fun stuff. But we won't digress from the narrative here, so I don't want to embarrass myself too much. But yeah, I used to play in a band and all that fun stuff. So, but
Guns N' Roses.
Sorry,
Guns N' Roses.
No, yeah, I want to be a Metallica band.
Well, so you know the expression, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, right? So
yeah, so we're scratching and clawing right now. Nova's sort of scratching and clawing, pushing that rock up the hill here. So yeah, real quick, I've been in the capital markets here. I'm gonna say over 30 years. I started with a firm called McLeod Young Weir back when there were many independent brokers in Canada, and then the banks got involved. So McLeod Young Weir became Scotiabank. I was on the institutional money market bond desk there for, I don't know, half a dozen years or so. Got to be a director there, which was great. And then moved on and became a broker. Got trained through the Scotiabanks at a platform and became a broker for 20 some odd years. And then in Vancouver, being sort of the junior market capital of the world, it's sort of a tongue twister there. But, I got into running companies here. I sold my book and I moved on to, running some mining deals, which is pretty common here in Vancouver, where a lot of mining deals are headquartered in Vancouver. And but I was sort of in 2015, 2016, we got involved in the cannabis sector and, Liberty Leaf Holdings. And we had some success there with, similar to what we're going through. Well, maybe not similar, but similar in the drug trial steps and procedures. We had to go through the Health Canada procedures of getting our facility up to sort of snuff and licensing and what have you. So, but for a variety of reasons, and many investors know that the capital markets all but dried up for the cannabis sector. And
the Liberty Leaf became, what was that stock started out where, and what was the peak like? Because I think that gives an indication of what the potential. So how did Liberty Leaf?
Well, I think before the retail sort of euphoric activity there, a lot of companies were trading in that nickel 10-cent range. So we were in that range there, and $5-10 million market cap, and raising some money on an as need basis. But then I think it was sort of late 2017, early 2018, there was a massive boom in the cannabis sector for, that came on the heels of California. I think brought in some legislation. Slowly the states were bringing in sort of some legalization there. So it certainly bolstered our market here. But there was a boom and then there was a bust, and so we had to sort of look at our business and how do we survive, right? How do we?
Well, you're being very modest. The stock became like a.
It went from like $5. I'm saying a low of $5 or so to just over $1. I think we traded at $1.
That's like a 20 bagger. So there's a good track record.
You like your baggers. You like your baggers, Jack.
Yeah, I got the book, TenBagger. The TenBagger blueprint. This is the book.
There you go.
You got the system for and what's interesting is, again, Nova, in my opinion, again, I work with a handful of companies, which I believe have that 10x upside, right? And I think Nova meets pretty much all those criteria. My favorite one, if I may, again, this is an opinion that we're not making any representation of, is I'm looking at this kind of valuation gap opportunity, right? So again, the peer group is trading at 100 to up to 400 million valuation, right? Let's call it an average of 200 million valuation, to be modest, to be conservative. Nova is a valuation of under 10. So we got a gap between 10 million and 200 million. So even if Nova goes up, actually, I think Nova is 8 million valuation, or maybe even a little bit less. So
let's just over 11 Canadian. So
8 million. Yeah. So even if the thing goes up 10x, even if the stock goes up 10x, if it becomes a TenBagger, it's still under 100 million valuation. So which I think is a lot of margin of safety. I mean, again, Will, you're a broker, right? So you're going to say, I like the idea of margin of safety. I like stocks that you have asymmetric setups. You're risking here, you're risking, a nickel in the US, right? The stock is a nickel. You're risking a nickel. potentially, again, if you get good results, if you get good data from the clinical trial, this, maybe again, you become an attractive candidate for other companies in the sector. Because I'm looking at this way. I don't know how much you can talk about what's going on, but I would think in this space, some of these other psychedelic companies, they're looking at what you have and say, hey, we can pick this up. They have an autism program. They got a Fragile X program, a rare drug thing. If we can pick this up for 100 million valuation, why not? Right. And that'll add to their,
well, for sure. And I think that's a fairly common path to sort of an exit strategy, if you want to call it that, for shareholders and insiders. Is, if the science is robust and you get it to a certain point, you get through the phase 2A into the 2B, what have you, and if the data proves itself out, then for sure that's where the big brother kind of steps in and takes notice, and kind of because it's going to be a very capital intensive go forward basis for a larger trial, for sure. So whether it's you bringing in a partner or you get taken out, there's a variety of scenarios, and I think that's where you get your lift, is where, when that data, it's all about the data right now. The market.
It's like the mining business, right? If you have good drill results, nobody develops a mine. It's all by getting the drill results, then you sell it off to one of
yeah. If you want to use that as an analogy, for sure. It's like, you have to sort of know your strengths and weaknesses, and by all means, I'm not sure if I'm the right guy to be running a $100 million pharmaceutical company, but you get it to a point where, hey, you know what, if you can pair up with a big boy that can take it to the next level, then that's where you say thank you very much, and you move on. So that's the obvious sort of path to success, is my understanding. And in the pharma business, is the small guys get taken out by the big guys.
Yeah. So it's really the key is, though, to hopefully at a good valuation. Hopefully north of $1. Well, don't do anything here below.
I'm not talking about stuff. I'm not predicting any price.
We need a TenBagger. We need this. I don't want anything. No deals below 50 cents for sure. So I don't know. Are you talking to any potential partners or any companies in the space or biotech companies?
Well, I'm not going to say who, but it behooved me and our team not to be actively talking to industry people, whether they're in the autism space, whether they're in the psychedelic space, whether they're in the sort of neuroinflammatory business. So from the neck up, as Marv likes to say. So yeah, I think as we hit those milestones and those critical milestones, that certainly opens the door for me as a CEO to make those calls and send those emails and say, hey, want to make sure what we're doing here, because the market cap isn't really truly reflecting the science and the opportunity at hand.
Yeah. Again, I think you have some of these bigger players, again, the ones that are in this couple $100 million valuation range.
Yeah.
But for them, it would be a very strategic acquisition if they can pick this up. All of a sudden now they have an autism program as part of their pipeline. Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. It gives them more multiple shots on goal. So
yeah, 100%. That again, coupled with the orphan drug designation, which I bring it up because I think it's we say it, but not a lot of people understand what it means. Is basically it gives you the opportunity for sort of exclusivity within that marketplace. And so in a market where psilocybin is a drug that can't be patented, and in essence it's really a generic drug, having the orphan drug designation is huge.
And by the way, even a generic drug, companies can make billions of dollars with generic drugs. I mean, that's a whole multi-billion-dollar industry in itself.
Yeah, it's like it's first to market, right? So we feel that with the Fragile X designation and our path, with this phase 2A, that again opens the door for other opportunities should the data be as robust as we feel it will be.
Yeah, and also the protocols, right? So it's also the protocols of how you take. There's a whole science behind it, right? So I think this again, it's all this stuff just points to how much of an opportunity, in my opinion, how much of an opportunity Nova is based on the current valuation. Again, I look at things purely based on valuation. What are you're paying $8 million for a company, potentially this could be worth X, right? Again, we want to see the data, which is hopefully going to be coming out. When do you think you can actually start? Do you have any idea of you're starting the patient recruiting?
Well, we're starting the recruitment process, right?
Yeah.
So, if we had a patient today that vetted and that we was fully vetted, in essence, they could start the 28-day protocol, which is one and a half milligram tablet or capsule every second day.
Are you going to now, in terms of news flow, which are you going to announce as are you going to announce as you get patients or not? What like how much what's going to be kind of the news flow?
Yeah, well, for sure. We're part of our job is to really news flow, right? So and so whether we do I don't know if we'll make an announcement for every patient that gets vetted and we move forward on. Maybe we'll do the first couple.
Yeah.
But the first patient is going to be key for us for sure. So that'll be announced as soon as that person is fully vetted. So yeah.
When do you is it too early to say? I mean, do you have any idea? You have any kind of visibility into when we can see that? Because I think that's an important milestone. The first patient coming into the trial is a key milestone.
Well, so keeping in mind that it's a rare disease, and we've kept the recruitment area within the Greater Toronto area because of our partner KGK Science is based in London, Ontario, which is, I don't know, an hour or so west of Toronto. We've kept it in that sort of jurisdiction. So, which is, I don't know, it's the biggest population base in Canada, so 10 million or so. I'm not sure exactly the number, but we're hoping we can find those 10 there. If we need to expand, I guess we'll sort of cross that bridge when we get there. But in the effort of keeping the trial costs as low as possible, we've kept it to the one jurisdiction.
Okay. And what's interesting is we had I forgot the guy from KGK who's running the trial. What's his name? Andrew, yeah. So he mentioned something interesting, which is essentially with this trial that the patients will be able to take the drug home with them. So it's not sometimes they can administer the psilocybin at home in their own home.
Correct. So it's not unlike the sort of
big deal. It's a very makes things a lot easier.
Well, yeah, it's kind of more of a real world experience. No one wants to have to go into a clinic and lay on a couch for 4 hours and take a macro dose of psilocybin. There's a time and place for that sort of protocol for sure. But we feel that this path is and through the preclinical work that we've done with Dr. Treza in Rome, proves that the micro dose path is the right path to take.
Okay.
And then you've got obviously with down the road when you have if you're going to administer this drug to autistic children, I'm sure that's a whole different ball game there. But you don't want your kids to get high, as far a psychedelic high. You want to keep this. You want the drug to work, but not have that hallucinogenic effect.
Right. So this is a fine line here. Okay. So to wrap up, what's okay? So upcoming milestones, news flow. What can we expect like over the next, let's call it 3 months, right? Into the next 3 months. Like what's going to be the key things to be looking at?
Well, I think the key here, Jack, is the trial, right? So the trial is key. That's basically what we've been driving towards, and with that trial and the positive data that hopefully comes from it, then that takes us to another sort of level here when it comes to the ability to knock on those big brother doors or raise, capital at a higher price to do, a bigger trial phase 2B, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in the US, even Australia is an opportunity now with the big tax credits that they're giving right now. But, I think the plan here, and I know Marv's mentioned it on your show, is that, if the data proves to be as robust as we expect, Marv and the team would go to the FDA and try to get approval from a compassionate standpoint, because there's no other drug for that indication, right? That for Fragile X.
He mentioned it, so it's very interesting. So there's potential. Again, we're saying potentially there's a possibility for this kind of accelerated path to approval.
Yeah. And that's why the rare disease orphan drug scenario plays out very well for us. It's there's those big bullseyes out there that companies are going after, but because of Marv's background and his success.
It's real interesting. So that's the whole thing, which I think
going through the back door a little bit there, right?
It's kind of that's really what this is essentially. So this again, this is what he said. They said if we get really good data from the thing, he would push to get this compassionate use. I think there's another pathway, accelerated pathway. So in theory, I mean, when I spoke with Marvin, he said, like, and again, I keep pushing him, make an aggressive statement, but he was being conservative. He said, potentially it could be quite quick, like less than 12 months, if the stars align, everything happens. So that would be really, I think that would make it the first psychedelic drug on the market, potentially. No, I don't think there's any other psychedelic on the market.
Right. Well, listen, I think there's going to be a lot of hurdles in the way, right? It is still a Schedule 1 drug and what have you. I think there's probably other jurisdictions that would one. It's not that we wouldn't try the U.S. because obviously that's the big kahuna out there when it comes to the drug world. But whether it's Australia that's starting to open the door, Canada, what have you. So there's certainly some paths that we would look at that time for sure. So, but that is certainly in the deck of cards, is the expedited sort of pathway based on the compassionate use for a rare disease.
Okay. Let's see. Do we have any questions?
Questions! I didn't know we were going to do Q&A.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, that's the whole idea. We're supposed to have Q&A here. I don't know if we're going to have too many questions here today. We have Mohammed from Jeddah. Mohammed, welcome. So this is the Q&A part. Are we going to have any questions? Usually we don't have any questions the first time a CEO shows up.
Right.
It takes them a while to get built up on
some traction.
Yeah, and then you have all that stuff. So all right. So bottom line is we have potential news flow. We have the first patients coming into the trial, which could be, I don't know. It could be within 30 days. Do you think? I mean, I'm trying to get an answer. I'm trying to squeeze.
Yeah. Well, listen. I think in a perfect world, it'll be tomorrow. But I think it's the marketing is started. So I that's kind of up to not up to, but it's in the capable hands of KGK. They're marketing through social media. Maybe through your viewers. It's just if you know anyone with Fragile X in the Greater Toronto area, go to our website. There's a link there. It'll take you through sort of the questions and sort of the high level questionnaire that gets you down that pathway.
Okay, here we go. First question, Mohammed. Are clinical trials advanced our clinical trials? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's.
Autism. What I do know is that there. I can only speak from a pharmaceutical standpoint. There aren't many companies advanced on the pharmaceutical sort of clinical trial side for autism. I know, Compass is the big guy on the street here, and they've announced their intention to get it, start looking at autism. There's a few smaller companies that, I call it, we're kind of swimming in the same pond. So there's maybe a handful of companies, not many, that I know. There's a NASDAQ company that is looking at Fragile X. another one, Fragile X Autism. There's a few out there, but no one that I'm aware of that is using psilocybin, slash psychedelic, and that has, an orphan drug designation. We're the only one.
Yeah. So this is okay. So again, I'm looking at this also from this kind of exits standpoint, right? So
Right.
one of the things is if you get this accelerated approval, and I think from my interviews with Marvin, he really believes there is a path, and again, he's done this stuff before, right? So
Right.
he sees there's a potential for this accelerated pathway, which could happen if we get the good data. And then all of a sudden, you have a very attractive. All of a sudden, Novo Mentis becomes very attractive. Having this FDA orphan drug designation as a very attractive buyout for one of these other, not just the other psychedelic companies, but there's also how many other pharma companies are out there that want to have a novel therapeutic approach for other neurological. This time is money, right? You were in the capital markets. You were in the bond market, so you understand the time value of money, right? So for these companies, the meter is running. If they can spend $100 million and be in the market with it's from a strategic standpoint.
Well, it's peanuts. It's peanuts for them, right?
Because all of a sudden it increases the value of their stock. It gives them a foot in the door of the market. And all of a sudden, that $100 million investment could make them, $1 billion, right? So what difference does it make if they pay $100 million or $200 million?
Well, nothing. As long as we're in that marketplace that I guess there's some value for their the pipelines. The big guys have just multiple pipelines, and they're always kind of fueling those pipelines with the sweat equity of the smaller guy, right? So we're doing all the hard work, all the grunt work, if you want to call it, and if the data proves out to be success, then that's where they start come calling.
Question. So this might be getting a little bit ahead of things, but will you have any issues supplying the market if you get approval? Do you have production capacity?
Well, good question.
That'll be a good problem to have, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say, when we get to that issue, are we going to be in control of our destiny at that point? Or are we going to be under the wing of a major player? So, which would have the capacity to do that, right? So, I could say that, from a Fragile X standpoint, I don't see that being an issue. We've got our API being manufactured out of North Carolina. We've got our encapsulation formulation team at TIPT. That basically puts everything together in a nice little package in the capsule there. So in the short term, I would say no. If that whole off-label use comes into play, that's I don't think we would be around
as
a
quality problem down the road.
Yeah.
So Will, I want to wrap. I want to wrap things up. I know you have a cold right now, so before
battling a cold, Jack, I got dressed up.
I'm gonna let you go. One last question. My favorite question we always ask every CEO is, Will, in your opinion, what are the top 3 reasons why investors, should consider Novo Mentis today?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's the science. It's what we've done to date here. We've done a lot. We like to joke internally. We've done a lot with a little. We've maybe raised, off the top of my head, maybe a couple $1 million over 2.5, 3 years, which is and that's Canadian dollars. So everything gets we got a 30-40% haircut on items if we do any business.
Basically, you're at a phase 2 clinical trial for I think under $2 million or whatever it is, or definitely under 3, definitely $2 million US, which is unheard of.
Yeah, and although Marv did something similar back in the day, I'm going to say maybe in the 90s. So the value of money was a little less back then and compared to now with inflation, but 2 million, we've done a lot with a little. So it comes to, I guess, the team, the experience, the preclinical work that we've done through Aroma University, and the fact that we've taken this sort of CGMP synthetic psilocybin that the manufacturing process is proprietary to us, and we're taking that capsule to a phase 2A trial. I think we've, for a small team on a limited budget, so we've done a lot with a little. Secondly, again, we've been chatting about it a few times, this orphan drug designation. Viewers can just Google and take a look at who's out there that has anything similar, and I challenge them to see if there's anyone. There might be other drugs, but whether it's MDMA or ketamine, but when it comes to psilocybin, if we're not the only one, we're the only one of two. There's not a lot, so that's a big feather in our cap from a corporate standpoint. And then the comps, the comps were under 10 million US, 11 million market cap Canadian. The broader markets are, it's a tough market. We get that. And every CEO I talk to in the business is, just kind of lamenting on the struggles.
But still, they're trading, even again, right now we're at the bottom of the cycle in biotech and definitely psychedelics. So in NASDAQ. And you still have these companies like, I think, Atai, and somebody's mentioned Atai. They're trading at a couple $100 million valuation. 400 million valuation in some cases, and they're not really much more advanced than where Nova is in terms of their phase 2A clinical trial.
Yeah, well, they've got multiple. Atai is kind of like a incubator of companies that they've sort of put together within their sort of umbrella. Compass is another big player, and they came out gun swinging. They raised a lot of money, big teams, great people running those companies. But we're sort of the David and Goliath, right? We just got our nose to the ground and we just kind of persevered, and here we are with without raising a lot of money. But again, to that question about Atai, we talk to everyone out there. We've made intros. They know who we are, and as things progress, we make sure they know what we're doing.
So is that a hint? Is that like someone could read between the lines? Let's say good data comes out, because I mean, really, that's what happens usually, right? It's like mining business, right? All of a sudden, you hit some good drill results, and people say, wow, let's scoop these guys up before the word gets out.
Well, for sure, it's all about the data and any banker.
I mean, let's say I don't want to put words in your mouth, but let's say, okay, so this is kind of like a rolling trial, right? So you're going to start, let's say, patient 1, patient 2. Let's say, again, it's a rare disease, so it might take, let's say, it takes 2 months, 3 months to get the first 4 patients, let's say. But by then, we'll have data. It's a 28-day trial. We'll already have the data, so you'll have the data released. I think we'll have something by then. So
whether we release it, I don't know if we'll release it on an ad hoc basis. Okay. I think there's a bit of a protocol in that the data gets released near the end. But what's going to happen is that companies that we've been talking to under a non-disclosure agreement, those that are interested, maybe take a peek under the cover and see what's going on.
Okay. So there is catalysts here. So and the crazy thing with biotech is that we see this happen all the time. It's like all of a sudden, these stocks, they get a little bit of good data, and you wake up in the morning, these stocks are up 100%, 200%. Again, based on data. Yesterday nobody cared about them. They have good data. All of a sudden, these stocks are trading millions of shares, and they're up. Now we're not saying anything here, or whatever, but the data will be everything here.
The data is key for sure, and I think that, Jack, strange things do happen in the marketplace, but again, the market tends to reward those that just kind of keep their nose to the grindstone and just plug away, not spend money willy-nilly. We don't have large offices. We all work remote, and it's lean and mean staff for sure.
Exactly. Okay, Will, thank you for your time. Get well. Take your chicken soup, whatever, to get over this cold, and we'll see you. Hopefully, we'll catch up with you maybe in about 30 days as we get some more progress.
Sounds good, Jack. Appreciate the ability to kind of chat with your group out there, and
Thank you, and thank you everybody for joining us. See you in the next one.